I'm Tammy Lea Meyer, and I'd like to welcome Ferananda Ibarra, one of the voices of the Impact Economy Summit coming up at Whistler this October 5th to 9th. Ferananda, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Happy to be here.
Yes. So we're so looking forward to the summit and so many amazing thinkers coming into the room together. But ahead of that, we wanted to know a little bit about all of us. And so thank you so much for participating. I'm going to just ask a couple of questions off the top. Are you concerned about the state of the world today?
Am I concerned about the state of the world today? Yeah, I'm both concerned and excited about the state of the world today. I tend to go more into these aspects of the creation that is happening. Yet I am concerned. I witness, and I grieve. So there is this aspect of grieving and creativity that they both come at the very same time. When one feels the other, right?
Yes.
Because regardless of the state of the planet, what we want to create is more goodness, truth, and beauty. And so if what we had was wonderful, but we still wanted to evolve it into higher levels of goodness, truth, and beauty, it would still be more powerful and more beautiful. So for me, it's an act of creation and not an act of fixing anything or reacting against anything, but to participate in an evolutionary process that is so incredible for those of us that are able to connect, and blessed and privileged to be able to connect to it and feel it and be part of it.
Wonderful. And the next question is, do you think we can turn things around, which you've partly answered?
Well, depends on what you mean by turning things around. What is around, right? I mean, can we create things that are more beautiful? Yes, we can. Is it on time? I don't know. I don't know. There's all these different perspectives, and sometimes it's scary, and sometimes I think we won't, and sometimes I totally think we can. And my work is in the belief that yes, we can. We can.
And how? What are the hows that you can see that we could? What would be required? What would we need to do to turn things around?
Consciousness, first and foremost. And we have the technologies. So I see it's more a matter of courage to apply what we already know we can apply, and to do it. And there's a whole number of our population in the planet that are just not seeing, or don't want to see, or are too busy in their lives and getting money, right? To be able to have the consciousness to actually shift their behaviors. So it's a complex question because it requires the I, and it requires the we, and it requires the technologies and systems to be able to create a difference that really has an impact, both in our individual lives and our communities and nature.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you so much for that. Ferananda, I'd love to dive in to your work. Can you just give a little bit of an overview as to the work that you do in the world?
Sure, I can. Well, my work in these last years has been devoted to Village Lab, to the creation of it, that has multiple aspects that are totally aligned with what we used to call next paradigm economics, and now we're shifting into calling wisdom-driven economies, as a way in which the flows of wealth can really be seen, can really circulate, can really provide and create harmony in our society. and harmony within ourselves. Because for me, in my work, a lot is collective intelligence and and wisdom-driven economies, and as this place where we can have an impact that is systemic. So there are many people that work in the I, and praise them. It's personal development. Our work is to work in the systems, is to work in the communities, is to work on having them and showing people, yes, you can share power and you have not to be scared. Yes, you can make decisions together. Yes, you can create collaborative economies that work for you. Yes, there's new models out there. Yes, you also have to pioneer sometimes and go ahead and do it. And what we do in Village Lab is that we create with collective intelligence and with wisdom-driven economies and whole systems design. We create it's not much like solutions, but our work is very directed to creating communities of intent, which we call communities of practice, place, and purpose, which is very broad. Some people think it's just eco-villages, but no. We do a lot of work on eco-villages and land projects. That's one of our hearts, just because our heart is communitarians. Both Jeff and I are communitarians. And we believe that is relationship. Sorry, wait a second. And we believe that it's relationships that can really get us very, very far. Even if the systems crash and all kinds of things fail, we still get each other, get one another. So we focus a lot on that aspect of collective intelligence and the aspect of the economy as the ground that holds that harmony together. So then we can create and evolve as a social organism, whatever that social organism might be.
And can you identify, like, you've put a lot of your life energy into building this. What was the challenge that you were looking to solve?
Every challenge is different. Back in 2009, Jean-Francois Noubel and I, we were working in the Collective Intelligence Research Institute, and he decided he had to leave the monetary system, and I went like, oh, that's an interesting idea. And we started to go into the essence of what it meant to live without money and what money meant, which we already had that analysis previously because we worked with Open Money Project and we work with implementing currencies and creating a system called the Flow Place for communities to be able to create all sorts of currencies. But then, that's a challenge. You kind of find out a lot of things and lock-ins and beliefs and languaging that really doesn't work or empower a new consciousness. So that part of my life really helped me to see the primordial aspects of language, of what we use in our society. Like, you're broke. You don't have money, but you're not broke. I have that experiences. Many times I don't have money, but I'm definitely not broke. Or make a living, or even the word pay. So there's many words that we just use that won't get us to the place where we can have a new consciousness. But that's the work in invisible architectures that we were doing in Collective Intelligence Research Institute CIRI for a long time. And then in 2011, the challenge became helping my community in Tepoztlan in Mexico to be able to be more monetized and to be able to have different another tool for exchange. And so we created a currency called the Olin, which exists until this day, and we're working, Village Lab is working with them for the next stage of their project. But it's a very healthy community, and they have a market, and they have products, and they have restaurants, and they have, so they're growing, and they're good, and they're steady, and that was a different challenge. Then with Village Lab, the challenge is how to help communities thrive. So that has to do with creating new ways of making business, both internal, which is what we call wisdom-driven organizations, internal aspects of how you organize a system that has an evolutionary purpose, that reaches for wholeness, that self-manages itself, that is more decentralized. and an external aspect, which is, okay, how we create markets, and how do we make those markets thrive, or what are the kinds of tools, and how can we do that with some other tools that is not only money, but actually a whole spectrum of wealth, which is what we talk about with metacurrency, or the work of Art and Eric Harris Brown as well, which is so embedded in Village Lab. It's kind of our primordial guideline and partner. So, and then the challenge became in Village Lab, and for helping communities, each community has a different challenge.
Yes.
And sometimes, but it constantly touches that part of how do we become sustainable. And there's things that are happening right now where we can see that is beyond one community or other community. These networks of communities. What is the kind of systems that will enable them to create wealth together? And then the challenge became with Village Lab, oh my goddess, how are we going to do this? We don't want to be a non-for-profit and asking for money as charity. Please give me money to do my work in the world. Or we don't want to be an LLC, only for profit. And with so much, there's the structures, and the legal structures have some more blockages, like they're old structures for the new work that we want to do in the world. So the Wealth Stewardship Circle and the Wealth Stewardship Model was born as a response to get rid of that firewall in between profits, nonprofits, entrepreneurs, investors, philanthropists, entrepreneurs, which all have pains that happen because of the constraints and the structures around the monetary system. Yes. So we're working with an aspect of that right now.
Sorry, what's that project?
Challenges.
What's that project?
The Wall Street, it's Village Lab, primordial funding mechanism, or funding. You can say it's our funding mechanism, but it's more than that. It became a product a product development in itself. And what I mean by product development is because we're trying to create a circle of people that we call the World Stewardship Circle, where there's 3 functions. And there's cultivation function, and there is the generation function, and there is the integration function. And the cultivation function has aspects of, in the old language, we would call them philanthropists and investors. And in the generation circle, in the old language, we would call nonprofits and for-profits, or B Corps, or, And integration circle is people like us, like Village Lab, that can help circles come together and build glue and coherence and trust, and tools, and innovation, and collective intelligence embedding processes that can really make that coherence. And the generation circle is, the vision is business ecosystems that support each other, that literally exist to steward each other's core gifts.
Yes.
And everybody sits in a circle, investors and philanthropists alike. Their pain is being seen as a check with legs, or being lied to, because the entrepreneurs have to lie to inflate their numbers to be able to say, yes, we're doing the things, when only 13% of them, of the entrepreneurships really make it, which is absurd. Where does that wealth go? Where does that energy go? So we want to shift that to an ecosystem where literally we start by saying fail is a different thing here,
Mm-hmm.
Fail, there's no fail. It's like in the Mondragon cooperative, if there's a fail, then and there's someone loses their job, they go to another place in the cooperative. So there's no waste, like it happens in nature, right? We recycle whatever is the wealth that we create.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that work. It's really critical work, and I really love the holistic approach that you take, and it's very powerful.
Thank you.
What are some of the questions that you're looking to ask at the summit?
Well, I'm sorry to say, but I won't be in the summit.
You're not coming?
No, I'm not coming.
Oh, no, I thought you were.
No, I'm not. I'm not coming. Jeff is coming as a representative for Village Lab.
Okay, well, I'm really looking forward to
find ways in which to, provide value to the summit. through the social media, to the channels, through the stories, through this podcast, and provide value that way, because I know so many people that are going to be there.
Yes.
And so I'm curious about what is that, not what is that we want can build together, because I think I'm past that question, because I've done so many events through my collective intelligence work where we think that bringing many organizations together, suddenly voila, they will have like a one thing to create together, and sometimes that's not possible. But what is possible is the different, I'm very curious about the different ripples that would be created after these, which many of them you can really not see. Yeah. And perhaps there will be some small pockets of coherence of people that will be working together. I mean, Madam Currency and us work very closely together, so there's that aspect of collaboration that's already happening that really transcends territory into purpose. I know that we have a lot of complementarity with Michelle Bowens. I know that I use the software system of MathLabs for my currency in Olines, and I want to evolve that software with him. So there's many aspects of one-to-one collaborations. But in terms of one question, had one question.
Well, it's just a good opportunity to think into what we might, our questions really drive our inquiry. So I was just wanting to encourage participants to kind of frame what it is that we'd like to know. What are the questions that we have about, I mean, this is about changing the economy. So what are the things that we need to look at?
Well, that's a question in itself, right? What is the things that we need to look at? And I know that there's going to be a mapping process. Real Economy Lab has been doing an incredible mapping of the new economy and the different terms and the archetypes of the new economy, that perhaps it's a starting point, so not starting by zero, but what's been created by others. I guess the biggest question could be something around how do we keep track of what each other's efforts are, so that we don't repeat, so that we can really in collective intelligence we have this word that is called holopticism, which is the ways in which the part can see the whole.
Yes.
And that was coined by Siri and by Jean-Francois Noubel, that word. And so I'm very curious about that aspect of holopticism for the system of the people that are working in creating wisdom-driven economies. For the world. So, and we have that, but it takes a lot of effort to be tracking everyone's efforts. And sometimes people don't work loud like us. We don't necessarily work loud, meaning we don't necessarily put it in articles in social media, or like Michelle Bowens, that is incredibly productive in that area and has a team of people that work there. So you can really know what he's doing. But he his thoughts, but I would love to know what is the core project that he's holding and how we can complement each other. How can we provide value in different measures? Like maybe I can provide a leverage value here of 1 hour that would change something and be a resource for this other project when the time comes, because they do know my wealth and the wealth of Village Lab. So this is a little brainstorming, and what what I get out of it is that, well, what it would be very valuable to know more of the people, so that like the tribes, they really know what each other can do, so they know to what person of the tribe they have to reach when they need something.
Yes.
So if that happens and we can provide that aspect of being a resource for one another, then all our projects can really go into an upward spiral.
Yes.
But right now it takes conversation, it takes one-to-one, there's no holopticism in that aspect of seeing the whole.
Yes. There's very, very powerful thinkers coming into the room. Can you talk a little bit about some of the others that are attending, and a little bit about their work?
Yes. Yeah, that is the holopticism we were talking about. I mean, I'm very interested in the work of Tiberius in
Yes,
Sensorica. One of the stewards of Village Lab, his name is Benjamin Brunel, and he's incredible. He's also part of the Real Economy Lab project that I was telling you about, that they're mapping the new economy. And they Ben has held for Village Lab what they call open value networks,
yes,
and that is one of the primordial aspects that Tiberius has been working. And so I find his work extraordinary in the ways in he's been able to document what we call value accounting, which
yes,
is the internal ways to measure and enable and flows of wealth inside your organization. So there's no wisdom-driven organization without that. Just because we need to see what is that each of us do, and not only in the performance level, but also in other more human levels. And every community I know, in communities of intent and eco-villages and other communities of practice need that.
yes,
Desperately need that, because otherwise we're locked into thinking that value you provide is then compensated by money. And we know, because this is, for anyone that explores a little, that motivation is intrinsic and extrinsic, and money is just an extrinsic part of that motivation and that value. So I'm really interested about the software he's developing and what he's accomplishing with that.
wonderful.
Art Brock, we just talked yesterday, and we work so closely that I'm very in sync with the creation of Scepter protocols, and excited about the developments that we have in mind, and that we'll be able to create together as Village Lab and Metacurrency for communities. And we're family, really. Eric and I, Harris Brown and I, go at least a decade of friendship, many summers being together. And so that's that. I'm very interested about Michelle Vowens and the Project Flock in Ecuador. How did that go with the new cooperatives and this new project launch that he did? I don't remember right now the name. But I'm very interested in knowing how to collaborate with them.
Yes.
I'm super interested in Marty, because I find that cooperatives are really something that we're holding in Village Lab. We don't have the expertise that Marty has. So I love it. I just love those new forms in which people are getting empowered to build these ecosystems of businesses that really change the invisible architectures of how businesses work in LLCs or for profits. And as well, there's new things coming that I would love to talk to him about, like trusts, for example. And so aspects of that. Who else that I know of? I have in my mind. Matt Slats. I want to know the state and what is happening with neutral credit exchange system that he's creating, Community Forge, because we use it in the Olinas, and we really, really, really need to go to the next stage, and we need to. So I'm wondering if there's some collaboration between us to provide that. So there's all these links, but that's the people I can remember for the top of the mind. And Jeff Clearwater, of course, he's my partner, so I'm very interested in everything he does. Everything, kind of.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ferananda. Really appreciate your time and your work, and you'll be definitely missed, but we look forward to spending time with Jeff.
I know my heart is divided. I would really want to be there. But anyways, I'm assuming that this is a first Impact Economy Summit. So there will be more work and more creativity emerging from here. I'm sure. I can see it in Caroline, and very interesting in her work, and Citizens Media as well. And the system they're creating seems very similar to something we want to create. So exploration,
Yes.
or process of discovery.
Wonderful.
Thank you for your time and doing this.